Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, a happy Tuesday of South by Southwest and the brand new conference. I'm thrilled to be here. One thing I was going to say was that it's so wonderful to see. I've been a Boys Club member since 2021, so since inception. And to see this come together and all of the hard work that Dina and Natasha and the whole Boys Club team have put into this, it's truly wonderful and definitely inspiring. So today I wanted to start with a quote that I am very certain is familiar to this group. The future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. We've all heard it, whether in a San Francisco cafe or anywhere in New York, probably throughout Austin this week. But what does this actually mean? This is something that I think about in my role in research every day. What does this mean if the future is here today and some people, some groups are experiencing it? Where is it? Who's experiencing it? What is their behavior? Most importantly, how do those of us, and so many of you, I'm sure, in this room, that are trying to influence that future, build the future of the internet, the future financial system, maybe the future healthcare system, how do we take this insight and actually use it? So I became a researcher to answer these questions. As a mixed methods UX UI researcher at Meta, I've covered a variety of new product spaces, from Web3, yes, to Instagram commerce, to also our entire creator monetization division at one point, which has been a lot of fun. And the way that I see my role and research in its absolute best form is to identify these concentrated pockets of the future, if you will, or as I like to think of them, these pockets of emergent weird behavior, and then explore the associated human experiences and problem sets that already exist to determine how we should build products and ideally the future around that. So the future is all around us. To me, that means that it's evidence, it's decipherable, and it's usable for each of us. So today, I'd love to share my process for identifying these weird emergent behavior pockets, and also 3 of these pockets are what I see to be, I think, these concentrated areas of the future with you each. So to me, that includes Tether's popularity in Turkish bazaars. So there's a lot of early adoption of Tether in Turkey that I'd love to discuss. The use of NFC chips and gamification to incentivize consumer loyalty. And then finally, how degens are funding microloans in Kenya. So most importantly, what we will discuss is how we can use lessons from this weird phenomena to help everybody in this world build this future of digital society, the future internet, whatever it is that you'd like to contribute. All right, so let's start in the Turkish bazaars. Imagine that you find yourself in one of the largest and oldest marketplaces in the world, the Grand Bazaar in Turkey. It's over 550 years old. It was founded around 1455. There are rows and rows of colorful spices. There's over 4,000 different vendors. There's Turkish coffee. And also on almost every street corner, there are bright orange Bitcoin logos denoting different cryptocurrency exchanges. There are so many, it's like vending machines in middle America. You might find any citizen of Turkey or an individual bringing up to 10 million lira, or about 300,000 US dollars equivalent in the Turkish currency, to one of these exchanges and exchanging that for Bitcoin, yes, but also the stablecoin. Stablecoins are a digital asset typically pegged to the US dollar, Tether. So they're doing this physically in person, they're risking theft. Clearly there's a need and a demonstrated use case here for cryptocurrencies, even physically. So why Turkey? Why Tether? Why physically in person? And why now? Well, as inflation skyrocketed in Turkey this summer of 2023, the use of stablecoins and other digital assets as a store of currency and a trusted store of currency became more and more important to Turkish citizens. Cryptocurrencies and stablecoins with a clean UX and little association to regulatory headwinds like Tether became more and more favorable. So even when the Turkish government sought to crack down on the flood of currency into these other stores of value, peer-to-peer exchanges and methods cropped up to support demand. So digital assets have reached mainstream adoption in Turkey by tailoring user experience to the emerging needs and existing problem set. For example, there are ways to transact literally in these bazaars where Turkish citizens are already transacting. And they're doing this versus attempting to project out what those use cases or what those spaces might actually be. They're meeting users where they are. You see this insight come through on Turkish Reddit threads and also in interviews that Bloomberg has done with Turkish citizens. They repeat over and over again that they use Tether in this case as their chosen currency because they can find it where they already are. Either on the blockchain Tron, which is an entertainment-focused blockchain that's very popular in Turkey, or in these physical bazaars. So, what can we learn from all of this? Well, given that this is one of the world's largest and oldest marketplaces where you wouldn't necessarily expect the future of our financial system to be found around every corner, let's definitely take away from this that we should meet users where they are. All right, great. So next, we're going to bring things a little bit closer to home for many of you, to New York City. Let's do a thought experiment real quickly. Imagine that you purchase clothing from a brand that you admire, you attend an event, you wear your gear in a busy, hectic city with other like-minded consumers. Maybe you refer that brand to them, you refer the item to them. In exchange, they purchase that same item, and you as the consumer have clearly done this brand a service. You have generated value for them, but of course, as it typically goes, you aren't receiving a cut or a share of that value. So it's hard to believe, but there are places in the world on the internet and physically where consumers are receiving a cut of that value. So let's start in New York at NFT NYC. Instead of a brand campaign, a token-gated party, or an expensive dinner, in April of 2023, the fashion brand 9DCC conducted a connected scavenger hunt using NFC chip or near-field chip communication. Near-field communication chip technology. So what is NFC chip technology? What is 9DCC? And why does this matter? Unlike similar events, this hunt attracted over 100+ individuals. So in other words, 100 consumers wore their connected items, completed a multi-step call to action from this brand that required them to check into a variety of different locations, tap and engage their connected clothing, and in some cases, effectively refer the clothing to others. As a user experience researcher that often tries to convince users to check out in a one-click checkout process, I cannot emphasize how difficult this is. And in exchange for this service, wearers received a number of benefits. They received the camaraderie and entertainment of the event itself, a variety of proof of attendance tokens related to the event, and these can of course accrue in value, and the chance at a prize associated with completion. So in other words, they're being compensated for the value that they're creating for this brand. In fact, already, and I know that Lee mentioned this as well, we're seeing this example balloon into something a little bit larger. So what's a better example of a gamified incentive structure ballooning to a greater scale within crypto than crypto the game? It's also a demonstration of many of these dynamics: explicit creator organizational value sharing, gamification of a service, and incentive to refer. So it's very easy to imagine ways to scale this up beyond crypto, outside of crypto, but perhaps utilizing the underlying rails of crypto itself for other fashion brands or consumer goods and services, and into other markets where an emerging brand or creator might be looking to gain recognition or a foothold for their good or service. All right, so now we're going to move back overseas. So let's discuss degens and microloans in Kenya as our last example of weird emergent behavior. So there's been a few experiments in decentralized philanthropy. And again, I'm asking for your patience here. Let's imagine, close your eyes and transport yourself to a place where the behavior that we might call degenerate in crypto today, so think maybe Doge, or I'm gonna get this pronunciation wrong, but Joe Biden or Geo Biden. Instead of funding personal financial gain, contributed to charitable initiatives like funding universal basic income or enabling microloans for poor off farmers in Kenya. So I am incredibly pleased to share that this is actually happening today. It's hard to believe, but Good Dollar and another project, an employer-based stablecoin created by Mercy Core Ventures, are two applications on the Celo blockchain that offer each of these solutions respectively. So even during low transaction volume periods in asset classes known for degenerate behavior, Good Dollar, the decentralized application that delivers universal basic income to individuals in need, surpassed almost 150,000 monthly active users. Speaking from my perspective at Meta, that's a lot. And then the employer-based stablecoin from Mercy Core Ventures that enables microloans in Kenya surpassed almost 500,000 monthly active users. And this was actually in September of this year. So what can we learn for this? What does this mean for us? And how do we use this incentive structure to better society moving forward? Well, building off of this, speculation is obviously a powerful tool. For philanthropic initiatives and others, let's continue to employ the same incentive structure and reward mechanisms that have existed in DeFi since inception, but tie them to identity and these positive individual and organizational recognition kind of rewards. And hopefully, in the end, that will contribute, as it has here, to greater donation and ultimately growing engagement with consumers and beneficiaries. All right, so in conclusion, I want to share one final idea about the future, and this one is research-oriented. So there has long been a concept in research, specifically UX research, that really just threw me off. I learned the definition, and I thought, okay, this is a joke, this is a typo, this isn't actually a methodology. Let's see if this is as weird to you all as it is to me. So, ethnographic research, definition, I literally pulled this from the University of Virginia, observing life as it happens instead of trying to manipulate it in a lab. So when I read this, I thought, okay, this is literally just living life, like living life normally, going about your day, existing, and I did not understand why that deserved its own methodology. But the more experience I've had in research, and reflecting on my past experience in venture capital, chatting with founders and technologists about their ideas of the future, the more I realized that this is truly a unique worldview and something that certainly deserves its own methodology. For so many of us, I'd say especially in crypto, we try to fit our worldview, our products, and our solutions into our own pre-existing idea of what the future will be. But to truly innovate and influence the next internet, the next financial system, so on, it takes an objective observer to see the world and the existing problem set of humanity for what they are, instead of projecting our own ideas and desires of what we want them to be. So this is what I ask of all of you, to think of yourselves as researchers. Let's not burden ourselves with needing to predict the future and getting our projections exactly right, but instead, let's take advantage of the future that's all around us. Thank you.